Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
The first major storm of the season is heading to San Diego this evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm John Carroll in for Maya Trabulsi. The storm is expected to dump 2 to 3 inches of rain in parts of San Diego County, and that could lead to flooding. KPBS reporter Alexander Nguyen shows us how the County Public Works Department is making sure it's ready for the storm.
The shovels are out.
Ready?
The sandbags prepped, and the signs packed and ready.
Teams are ready, they're prepared.
Connie Tabor is with the county's Public Works Department. She says the crew has been working hard to clear storm drains and inlets in anticipation of this storm.
We conduct tree trimmings as well as keeping the roads clear of debris.
She says the team has been working 10 to 12-hour days prepping for this storm, including putting fiber rolls and sandbags along streets prone to flooding. The county is also keeping an eye on recently burnt areas. The concern for recently burnt areas like this one here in Spring Valley is that heavy rain could cause debris flows and damage homes.
It overflowed into my garage area and then down my driveway. It was just mostly mud.
Joe Payne has lived in Spring Valley for 32 years, and that has only happened once.
Because of the heavy rain.
He lives next to this wildlife refuge. In September, a lodge fire burned up to his fence line, but he's not worried about the storm.
We've had fires burn back this far the numerous times. I would say at least 3 or 4, and we haven't had any issues with floodings after the fires like that.
In some areas, flash flooding is a concern. Several fire stations in the unincorporated areas are providing free sandbags. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Sandbags are also available in limited supply from the city of San Diego. They can be picked up at one of the 11 recreation centers on your screen now. Locations are in each city district. Sandbags are limited to 10 bags per household or business. Sand is not provided. Outreach teams are also alerting those experiencing homelessness about the coming rain and offering resources. For more information about those resources, call 211 or visit 211sandiego.org.
Season in a major way through the next few days. Now tonight the showers are going to begin to reach some areas a little up the coast, up into Orange County. Oceanside will begin to see some rain. We'll see the clouds thicken in many other areas. The whole region here under a flood watch through Saturday evening. We'll talk about multiple waves of rain and how much could fall coming up with our full forecast.
The longest shutdown in U.S. history is over after President Trump signed a funding bill to reopen the government last night. But as Ivan Rodriguez reports, it could take some time before things return to normal.
The U.S. government is finally back open, but the fallout continues.
It costs about $15 billion a week, and it accumulates to maybe 1.5% of GDP.
While there's relief for travelers,
I am happy that it'll get back to some kind of normalcy.
Flight delays and cancellations are expected to linger as air traffic control facilities staff back up. Thursday, nearly 1,000 flights were canceled due to those staffing issues, FAA mandated cuts to keep the airspace safe, and unrelated reasons. It remains unclear when regular operations will resume.
It's going to take a long time. The problem is that the cascading effect that has occurred during the government shutdown is going to just kind of build on top of itself.
Across federal agencies, the hundreds of thousands of furloughed workers will have to address a more than 6-week backlog of work, from food safety inspections to NASA operations to tax refunds. Federal workers say it takes time to get things back up and running. And the battle on Capitol Hill still isn't over. There are no guarantees Congress will extend the health care subsidies set to expire at the end of the year, something demanded by Democrats as Affordable Care Act enrollees brace for premium increases.
It went from $400 that we're paying right now to $1,975 for the same policy.
The legislation also only funds most of the government through January, which means in less than 3 months, the government could close its doors again. Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
The Trump administration is challenging California's effort to redraw its congressional maps ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. Last week, California voters approved Prop 50. It allows state Democrats to redraw congressional lines to make 5 U.S. House seats more favorable for their party. One of them is San Diego Republican Congressman Darrell Issa's seat. The California Republican Party has sued in an attempt to block the redistricting. The Trump administration's involvement signals a dramatic escalation in the legal challenge. Families in the South Bay now have a better idea of how their local school district will change next year. The South Bay Union School District is closing an elementary school after years of declining enrollment. KPBS education reporter Katie Anastas says the school board approved a plan last night.
Central Elementary School will close at the end of the school year. Next year, its 300 students will go to either Bayside, Emory, Mendoza, or Oneonta elementary schools. On Wednesday, the South Bay Union School Board approved a new map showing which school students may attend based on where they live. The map includes changes throughout the district. Other schools will see their populations grow too. But Assistant Superintendent Rigo Lara doesn't expect those increases to last.
It's a temporary improvement. But with the declining enrollment challenge that we continue to have, the projections continue to show that the enrollment will continue to drop.
District leaders say the schools getting additional students won't need to add classrooms or other facilities next year. That's because enrollment will still be far below their peaks in the late 90s and early 2000s. Sunny Slope had more than 900 students in 1997. Next year, it will have about 370. Mendoza had more than 1,200 students in 2000. Next year, it will have about 540. Rose Saldana teaches at Imperial Beach Charter School. She says the district needs to figure out how to keep local students in its schools.
We still need to look deeper at the root causes of the declining enrollment. I know there are things like birth rate issues that are going on across the state, but we are also hemorrhaging students to other districts, and we're also losing students to private schools and other charters and other options that are not just leaving San Diego as a whole.
The district plans to close 2 more schools by 2031. Those schools haven't been chosen yet, but administrators have proposed Sunny Slope and Barry. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
The San Diego Padres may soon be up for sale. Padres chairman John Seidler sent an email this morning to the team's faithful fans. In the message, he says his family is reassessing its future with the club, including the possibility of selling it. Seidler says the family wants to find a new steward who shares the late Peter Seidler's goal of bringing a World Series title to San Diego. Our media partner, KGTV, spoke with Union Tribune sports writer Kevin Acey about what a sale could mean for the team and its fans.
There probably would have been a lot to worry about if they didn't sell. Then we might be talking about a reality of trading Fernando Tatis Jr. And certain things. So I honestly, there's a lot to process here. But this is not a bad thing.
The Seidler family first purchased a stake in the Padres in 2012 and became the sole owners in 2020. Peter Seidler died in 2023. No timeline was given for when a final decision might be made. Imagine getting in a taxi with no one behind the wheel. Well, robo-taxis are coming to San Diego next year. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says the upcoming service is getting mixed reactions from locals.
If you need to catch a ride from point A to point B in the city of San Diego, you can hire a driver through rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft, or you can call a cab. But soon, a new type of vehicle will hit the road here, without a person behind the wheel.
I'm thinking for the safety, like car with no, driver in there. I don't know how the people trust.
Waymo is already in 5 cities across the U.S., including Los Angeles and San Francisco. The company points to their own data that shows Waymo vehicles are safer than the average human driver. Now the company plans to expand to the city of San Diego, starting with a fleet of about a dozen driverless robo-taxis at some point next year.
If you see them, they drive in a certain manner, and people behave around them in a certain manner because we know that it's a little Waymo. It's like not going to be able to navigate the same way human does, or you cannot communicate with it by like looking at a person in the eyes.
While the announcement brings excitement for some, it's not such good news for others. Crystal Pham now lives in Normal Heights. She used to live in San Francisco, which has over 1,000 Waymo vehicles.
I don't really love that these things are following me here, especially because everyone who has lived in San Francisco knows that they are awful for traffic.
Putting a Waymo is a big deal for us because we're already struggling, between all rideshare companies, including Uber, Lyft, and other people.
Mikael Hussein is executive director of United Taxi Workers of San Diego. They represent over 400 members. He says they're advocating against Waymo to local and state officials over concerns regarding fair competition.
Driverless cars, you know what that means, So that means that the regular human being, they will lose their business. That's what that means.
Waymo says they're expanding to San Diego to provide safer, more accessible transportation options that complement the city's existing infrastructure. In a written statement, Waymo spokesperson Julia Elena said, "We'll initially be driving in the downtown core as we gradually expand across the broader metropolitan area over time. That includes areas like Pacific Beach, Mission Hills, and Liberty Station." Regarding what's next for Waymo in San Diego, city spokesperson Peter Kelly says Waymo is currently in the final stages of securing a permit from the California DMV to operate autonomous vehicles in the region. They'll also need to obtain approval for commercial and passenger operations through the California Public Utilities Commission. Local cab driver and former Uber driver Jama Ali says with robo-taxis on the horizon, human connection is one thing they can't easily replace.
We talk to the people, especially tourists. We navigate to the place they need to go. They ask about the city, where to go, place to visit, all the stuff.
Waymo has not yet announced a specific time service will launch in 2026. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the U.S. attorney who brought charges against James Comey and Letitia James faces questions about her own appointment. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Next year marks 250 years since the Declaration of Independence proclaimed that all men are created equal and endowed with inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To mark the fight for independence, Ken Burns has produced a 12-hour series on the American Revolution. It airs November 16th on PBS. KPBS's Amitha Sharma spoke with SDSU U.S. History professor Ed Bloom and San Diego Mesa College political science professor Carl Luna in October about that period and its relevance to today's struggles to preserve American democracy.
One of the most remarkable aspects is that you had such different places come together as one nation.
It mushrooms into a global campaign that touches Europe and all parts of the world.
It so excites us that we are the product of a revolutionary moment where the world turned upside down.
Carl, Ken Burns says the American Revolution is the most important event since the birth of Christ. Do you agree?
Well, it's definitely got to be up there, Amitha. It's at least as significant as the Reformation with Martin Luther. Well, the question will be, how does it play off? Somebody asked a leader of China, what do you think of the American Revolution 200 years ago? He said it's too soon to tell. So do we live up to the dream? Then it is the most influential.
And Ed, the American Revolution was the first ever fought proclaiming the inalienable rights of humans. How significant is that for the United States and for people all over the world?
The political push for inalienable rights was really important not only for people within the new country, but across the globe. It was really the first proclamation from people who didn't have direct political power that everyday people had rights. And it translated to, genuinely to, everyday people. There were enslaved African Americans who took it to heart. One who was Phyllis Wheatley, who wrote a poem where she proclaimed, "Liberty makes the weak strong," and that it led them to sing, to speak out for their own rights.
Carl, along those lines, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, both are obviously legendary, but just as they advocated for personal universal rights, they owned human beings. They were slaveholders. In fact, Black people fought in the Revolution on the side of the British and against the British. Describe how complicated that history is.
You have to remember at the time, just to be advocating for rights for average people, white people, was radical. The idea that you were advocating for the slaves, it was going to take a civil war to finally resolve that. Thomas Jefferson felt very conflicted about his slaves, but they were money. Too often in life, when your pocketbook is against your principles, your pocketbook's going to win out. So you got to look at the good they did, and they set up a system by which we could then address what they left unfinished.
And Ed, John Adams' wife, Abigail Adams, said, if particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. How seriously were Abigail Adams' words taken by the men of that time?
Yeah, and Abigail Adams wrote that, in fact, before the Declaration of Independence was even signed. And it's interesting because John Adams responded to her letter almost mockingly. He called her saucy, and he said it was almost too much to hear that the petticoats, as you know, women in dresses would even challenge. But then he said that if women were to uprise, he would hope that General Washington would bring his men to put them down.
Carl, George Washington famously turned down an offer to be king of the country. This month, there was a second nationwide No Kings protest that included tens of thousands of people locally. What would the founding fathers say about the country's current political situation?
Well, the important thing with Washington is he turned down the crown 3 times. I mean, he had plenty of opportunity to subvert the revolution, become our Napoleon. I think that for the framers, if you can do that sort of a juxtaposition to today, would look at things and say, yeah, people have to protest, government has to govern, but at a certain point, when government's not responsive to the people, it is their right, it is their duty to change it.
That was KPBS's Amitha Sharma talking to SDSU history professor Ed Bloom and San Diego Mesa College political scientist Professor Carl Luna. Public Matters is a partnership between KPBS, iNewsSource, and Voice of San Diego. You can see more of our stories at kpbs.org/Public Matters. And the city of San Diego is activating its inclement weather shelters program tonight. You can see the locations on your screen there. Father Joe's Village's Joan Kroc Center, Paul Mirabile Center on Imperial Avenue, and the Living Water Church of the Nazarene on Market Street. The shelters will remain open through tomorrow morning.
We have a great deal to talk about here with some significant flood concerns as we step into the weekend. A high-impact storm system will be with us through Saturday. Flood watches are in effect across all of the region here in southern and southwest California, areas around San Diego County, Orange County, and nearby. And we're going to be dealing with more showers next week as well, but the high-impact time begins on Friday. Mostly cloudy tonight, some a little up the coast. Up into parts of Orange County, we'll begin to see those clouds thicken and the showers arrive even. And then the rain rolls in for the city of San Diego and surrounding areas on Friday. So soaking rain Even some snow breaking out up into the highest elevations of the Sierra. But for us, it's going to be a soaker of a Friday. Temperatures in the upper 60s, drenching rain beginning to fall. The absolute heaviest rain will probably occur on Saturday, but Friday is going to be a really wet day for us. And rain just through Friday, we're going to end up with most likely ½ of an inch to an inch. So ½ an inch to an inch just through Friday. That's just the first part of this multi-pronged storm system. You'll notice, again, as we step into Friday, it's going to be wet out there. ½ an inch to an inch of rain, travel delays and so forth. But after these off and on periods of rain on Friday, we get into Saturday and the moisture increases. So the main teeth of this storm roll through the region here on Saturday. That's when we're going to see more than just ½ an inch to an inch. So ½ an inch to an inch on Friday. But Friday night, Saturday into Sunday morning, very heavy rain. This is going to be impacting the Los Angeles basin probably a little more severely than us, but still we have flood concerns locally as well. Soaking rain across the region. If we look at just Friday night, Saturday into Sunday morning, another 1 to 2 inches of rain. And look at L.A., 2 to 4. And look at the mountains, the San Gabriels and so forth, really getting hit hard. So a flood watch in effect here across most areas. Los Angeles County down into San Diego as well. Coastal forecast, soaking rain, periods of rain, showers off and on Sunday and Monday and into Tuesday. A mostly cloudy sky, a little drier. Inland areas, just drenching rain Friday off and on. Saturday, a soaker and showers linger into Sunday. Another wave of showers on Monday. Mountains, we're going to be windy and very wet, turning nippy out there. Rain, though, and not snow for our local mountains. And in the deserts, the heaviest rain rolls through on Saturday. A little break, could be a few sprinkles on Monday. So be safe out there. There will be some flood concerns. For AccuWeather, I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
It's been a landmark in our city for more than a century now, but it's more than just a part of the infrastructure landscape. It has developed a sentimental following over the years, and Ken Kramer shows us why in this story about San Diego.
Behold something that is, to a lot of folks, rather well liked in North Park. I mean it. A landmark built way back in
It was erected 23, completed 24.
That's right, a water tower. And if you think, no, it can't be such a favorite thing, well, it is. Look, in community parades, a water tower costume, residents dressed up like the water tower, symbolic of North Park. Yes, even tattoos.
Some person actually has their back is of the water tower.
Okay, how can this be? Historian Alex Bevel is going to help us here. First thing is to know it was special. From the time it was built, it was
the largest, the tallest, ellipsoidal bottom, elevated steel plate water tank in the world.
See, there's that rounded bottom of the tank. Technically located within what was then considered University Heights, it held up 1.2 million gallons of water back when a lot of places depended on it.
Literally from East San Diego, greater mid-city area, University Heights, Hillcrest, Mission Hills, uptown, downtown.
Alex was asked to write the proposal that this tower and the 7-acre area around it be placed on the National Register of Historic Places. Included is a baseball field.
That's where young Ted Williams learned how to hit his home runs.
Where there's this park today was once part of the water infrastructure built around that tower.
That held 17 million gallons of water. Imagine that.
That water was pumped as needed up into the tower, and because the water was high up there, gravity created enough water pressure for the thousands of faucets in homes below. But today, this tank is empty and has been since the 1990s. It became obsolete, and there were questions about earthquake safety. More than 1 million gallons of water sloshing back and forth, you can imagine. Okay, it wasn't being used anymore, so well then, you'd tear it down, right? Oh no. And why not?
Because the locals would have been up in arms. And they were saying, no, we don't know. We don't want that.
Now, over a century, this tower had become a celebrated symbol of the community. It's used to give directions to visitors. Look for the tower. It can be seen for miles around, and by planes coming into the airport, it's like a welcome home, and it's, you know, unique.
They did a survey, an informal survey, asking people, what does that mean? What does the tower mean to you? And that one person said, basically, it gives me a sort of a steampunk vibe and reminds me of the Tin Man.
A man made out of tin!
From The Wizard of Oz.
Alex Bevel refers to the tower that way now as Tin Man.
And then you got its cousin, the North Park Mini-Me Tin Man.
Just off the 805 at El Cajon Boulevard, that one's not for water at all. It just hides a cell tower and antennas, but it's keeping with the historic theme. In 2013, this big tank and the area around it were indeed added to the National Register. Then 2 years later, the University Heights elevated water tank, commonly known as the North Park Water Tower, was designated a local civil engineering landmark. To Alex, the more he studied its history, the more he got to know about this now empty tower on Howard Street in North Park, the more he came to feel like a lot of people in North Park do.
It's a local landmark, and it represents something.
Something highly visible and historic and a little bit fun about San Diego.
That is so cool. You can see more of Ken Kramer's stories about San Diego tonight and every Thursday night at 8 right here on KPBS. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Economists are starting to put a price tag on the 6-week government shutdown. NPR's Morning Edition digs into why some of the calculations are difficult to make. And on KPBS Roundtable, why immigration lawyers are relying on a legacy legal argument to challenge immigration holds. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm John Carroll. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.